Hi everyone, it's the Thoughtful Thought, otherwise known as Mistress Sassy. I've been getting a lot of requests lately asking if I mentor people, and I definitely have in the past. Um, it's something that I enjoy, but also it takes a lot of energy out of me, so I have been kind of just thinking about putting together a podcast, and here I go. Here's my first one. Now, this episode is going to be a lot of stuff that people aren't going to like hearing, but I feel like it would be a disservice for me to not say these things. So, what I have learned in my time in the industry is that sex work is not for everybody. I'm not saying that sex work is exclusionary and you can't do sex work if A, B, or C. I'm saying it's not easy money. And I know that a lot of people, even people that won't admit that that's what they're after, definitely are looking into sex work because they think, oh, I can make so much money so quickly. And I'm sure for some girls that is true. Like, if you are stereotypically attractive, on the thinner side, busty, big butt, shiny hair, straight teeth. I'm not saying you have to have all of those things, but the closer to stereotypically attractive you are, the easier time you will have in the industry. That's just unfortunately how it is. And I'm a very body positive person, but I've definitely noticed that it is harder for me as a plus size person to, gain traction because, people want what they see in porn or what they see on TV. And I'm not saying everybody, and I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm saying it is absolutely harder. It's 100% harder the more different or alternative you are. You can definitely find your niche still, but don't expect to make money like that. Okay, that's out of the way. Here's the other thing. You have to have really thick skin to put up with people's shit. And part of that is that, yeah, a lot of guys talk really disrespectfully to sex workers, especially escorts. I noticed a huge shift in the way that guys talk to me once I started escorting. And for those of you that don't know this, I primarily do domination. I've been doing domination a lot longer than escorting. And I don't always escort, but I do some of it here and there, so I do know about it. And when I was doing domination, the way that guys generally approached me was with more respect and deference. Not always, definitely not always. But you gotta be prepared for some people to be douchebags, and you absolutely should not see the clients that treat you like that because that's not safe. But I'm saying you're gonna get a lot of that. You get a lot of people talking shit, wasting time, a lot of people that get off just on scheduling with you. So if somebody is trying to talk sexually to you, like within the first couple messages or emails, or at the beginning of the conversation, if it's on the phone, shut that shit down. If they start to do that, drive home recenter them. Do you want to book a session? If you're trying to book a session, this is how you do it. And if they still try to steer the conversation around, don't waste your time with them. That is my biggest advice, is don't let people waste your time. And it's hard. And I still sometimes get caught in that trap because if they're not wasting your time, then there could potentially be hundreds of dollars at the other end of this interaction with this douchebag. But the guys that waste your time, the guys that want to talk about sexual things, they're not trying to book. They're not trying to pay you. They're not trying to book. They're trying to jack off while they're talking about booking. And they're never going to give you money. Or maybe they'll give you something, but it's not going to be what you want. And if they are trying to be like that, but you still kind of you got a feeling that maybe they're serious, ask for a deposit, immediately. And that will end the conversation quite abruptly if they are not actually trying to see you. I mean, some guys will definitely still try to waste your time after you've said that, but most of them won't. If they do, keep trying to redirect, hang up, block them. One of my favorite things to do is send a snarky ass message like, dude, you really trying to fucking waste my time? You think I'm a fucking idiot? Bye. And block them. It's so satisfying. You have to be willing to do that. You have to be willing to block people or just like cut ties with people who are wasting your time, because that shit will burn you out so fast, especially when you're new in the industry and you're not used to it. It just sucks up all your energy. And that's part of why sex work is not a get-rich-quick thing, because you have to wade through so much bullshit to actually get a good client, to get a client at all. Like, depending on what sites you advertise through, you're gonna get a lot of guys that just get your email and want to fuck around and jack off to your pictures or whatever while they email you and get your attention. So many dudes want free attention, and they're going to try to make you guilty for not giving them free attention. But here is the thing. Sex workers don't get paid for sex. Sex workers get paid to give men attention. Men want attention. I mean, everybody wants attention, but I think generally women, female presenting persons, have an easier time getting attention. But men, you know, especially if they're not conventionally attractive or whatever, they have a harder time getting attention, and that's what they want. Like, yes, they also want sex or, you know, some sort of fetish, but the root of that is that they want attention. That is why people who are married and maybe do have sex with their partners still see sex workers. It's because they feel neglected. And I'm not validating that. I'm not saying that's okay. I'm just saying that's why. Because that is what men want. So if they're talking to you, if they're endlessly emailing without giving a date, without giving a time, without putting down a deposit, then they are getting off on your free attention. Never give a man your attention for free unless it's to book them. Booking them is the only thing you should be prioritized with. You already, you know, if you've done your advertising correctly, then you've got sexy pictures for them to look at. You've got information about yourself for them to look at. There is nothing else they need at that point other than to book. And if they have questions, I'm not saying don't answer any questions. If they have specific questions like, what should I wear? Should I bring anything? Like, what is the standard? What's the norm here? Those are normal questions. Questions that are, what do you as a provider expect of me? Those are normal questions. If a guy is asking you, what are you going to do to me? That question is where you shut it down immediately. As soon as somebody asks, what are you going to do to me? Fuck them. No, they're done. They don't get any more. Don't type anything. Don't type anything unless you're in one of those days where you're like, man, I just really need to eviscerate somebody with my words, and this motherfucker is up in here trying to waste my time, knowing that my electric's gotta get paid, so this is the guy. Unless it is unless that's what you feel, unless you're like, I just need to use my vocabulary to destroy somebody today. Unless that's what you're doing, block him. Block him, never look back, because that situation's never going to change. Now, I'll give some guys, I'll give them one warning. If they say, what are you going to do to me? I'll say, book a session and find out. Otherwise, leave me alone. And the ones that are actually serious about it, they know. They're like, oh shit, I'm about to lose my chance to see this girl or this guy, whatever. I'm about to lose my chance to see this person. I better fucking quit it out. And they do. But if that's not what they're worried about, if they don't actually care about booking you, then they'll try to say some other shit. They'll try to work around. Oh, maybe in a couple months. I don't know exactly. Fuck that. Fuck that. There are guys that'll message you, be like, hey, I'm going to be in town in a couple months, and I'm thinking about seeing you. What are your rates? Whatever. That's a different thing. Because they actually do want to book, and they're trying to inquire about how to book. They're not trying to inquire about, what are you gonna do to me, baby? Oh my god. Not that guys usually, well, sissies do. Sissy sluts will do that shit. And a lot of this is coming from me as a person who does domination, and guys that seek out the attention of dominant women will very often say, what are you gonna do to me? Not shit unless you give me that money, bro. Not shit. I don't even fucking look at you till you book something. And that's what you gotta say. That's what you gotta be mean with time wasters, because otherwise they just keep fucking wasting your time and it will burn you out. And it's happened to me. Like that temptation of like, well, maybe they'll book, and if they book, that's a couple $100 in my pocket, couple days from now or whatever. It's hard to say no to the potential of money, but you have to. And if you can't do that, then you're not going to get far in this business, and it's going to wear you down. It has absolutely worn me down to the point where I won't even look at my emails for days. Like, I had to hire an assistant because I was getting so burnt out on that shit. So burnt out. So that's like one of my biggest things. Like, you need to be tough. You need to be okay with being mean and firm. But there's a flip side to that. The flip side to that is, if you are the kind of person who already feels bitterly towards men, and I'm saying men because most people that seek sex work services are men. It might not always be men, but that's the majority of the sex work seeking client base. If you are already like very angry and easily annoyed by men, you're not going to have a good time in this industry, because everything that all the resentment and anger you already have towards men will be amplified, and you're going to have a hard time with that if you can't separate the men that are douchebags from everybody else, because they don't represent everybody, and you do get good clients. But the thing about being a sex worker is that the worst of humanity thinks that they can say whatever they want to you. They like, oh my god, the guys in my inbox. I have a work Facebook, and guys will say fucked up shit to me. Guys I've never talked to before think they can just DM me and be like, oh my god, I want to fill you with cum 7 days a week. No, 6 days a week. I actually had a guy recently say, I'm going to fill you with cum 6 days a week, and on the 7th, I'll give you extra, or some bullshit like that. I'm like, dude, I don't even know you. You haven't tried to book. You haven't given me any money. Nothing. And you're just like, oh, this person is half naked on the internet, and therefore is absolutely interested in hearing all about my dick. No, I'm not interested in hearing about your dick unless I'm also looking at your wallet. And I like what I do. I really do. But I don't have the time to deal with 800 different dudes' boners if there isn't money in it for me. Sorry. I mean, I really do enjoy my job, and everybody else in the world who enjoys their job will say, I don't have the time to do it for free because I have to focus on the people that are paying me. That's just how it works. So you have to be prepared for that too. You have to be prepared for people to absolutely drop their manners. That's the thing that I say all the time when I'm going through my inbox and people are just saying ridiculous shit. A lot of times I just block them, but sometimes I'll just be like, your mother would be ashamed of you. Your mother would be ashamed if she knew how you were talking to me. If she knew that you talked like that to anybody that you didn't intimately know already. And even then, you can't just fucking spring that on somebody. God damn it, I'm looking at sour cream in the grocery store, and all of a sudden on my phone there's somebody's penis. I'm like, that was nice. What are you doing? Do you think that I'm just lounging around looking like this all day? No, motherfucker. I have shit to do. I go to the dentist just like other people. Like, what the fuck is your problem? You can't just, sorry, I'm getting on a tangent. That shit will burn you out. So if you're not in the headspace to be like, this is only representative of a portion of the population, not everybody is like this, not all humans are this filthy and disgusting, and they do show you, like, not all humans will show you their absolute worst just because you are a scantily clad woman, and therefore you deserve the worst. Not everybody's like that, and if you are a person that has a hard time compartmentalizing that, it's not the right industry for you. I'm not saying you can't get over it, you can't work past it, and I think most sex workers go through periods of just being like, why does all the filth in the world try to talk to me? Why? And I think most sex workers get burnt out on that at some point or another. But I know people that are just like always bitching about every client that contacts them and about little things. And I've definitely been that person that like loses my shit over little things because it kind of adds up. But if it's like that for you all the time, and anytime a client tries to talk to you, you're like, oh my god, leave me alone. This isn't the industry for you. I'm sorry. You have to like put up with a lot, and it's not easy, and it's not fast, and it's not for everybody. And I know that a lot of people aren't gonna like hearing that, but if you don't have thick skin, if you can't handle people criticizing your body, if you can't handle the fact that you're probably at some point gonna get passed over for somebody who's, I don't know, something that you aren't, if you can't handle that, then you're gonna have a hard time. So I guess I just want to be real with everybody that this is not the industry for everybody, and not because you don't belong here, but because it's rough. It's rough, and it's getting better, I think that a lot of sex workers are standing up for themselves and saying fuck you to guys that treat them like shit or try to treat them like shit. I know I don't put up with any of that nonsense. I've fired clients that I liked before because they tried to push my boundaries. I don't got any time for that bullshit. None whatsoever. So things are changing, things are getting better. I feel like sex workers' rights are slowly but surely coming along, but it's still a tough industry, and there are a lot of things that make it harder. So another thing is, if you don't have a place to work out of, like, you can work out of hotels, you can require your clients to pay for a hotel or something. I've never done that. I've always made sure that I have a space to work out of. Like, I rent a studio, and I work out of that. And I, a couple other girls, we share the rent and share the space, so that's good. But I realize that a lot of people don't have access to that, and that is a big gateway. Like, I mean, if you want to work out of your house, that's your choice. I don't feel safe doing that, especially since I have a kid. Would never let a client into my house. Never. But, I mean, you do use this. If you feel safe doing that, then fine. The other thing that will make a big difference in how well your business goes over is the size of your city. If you, like, I live in a really small city, and sometimes it is hard for me to get clients because there isn't a lot, it's not a lot of traffic as far as, people coming in from other cities all the time. And it's just not a big city. And I think especially as a plus size sex worker, or as anybody that's alternative in any way, you're going to have a harder time, just because the lower the population of your sample size, the harder it is that it's going to be to find people that want your particular brand, your niche. So that's why a lot of sex workers tour. So if that's something that you can do, if you have the flexibility to go to different cities, then that's a good way to overcome that barrier. Because if you can travel to bigger cities, then you have a bigger client base. But if you can't, and you live either in like a rural area or a really small city, then you're going to have a harder time getting clients in general. So what I would suggest is whatever the nearest large city is, do like weekly trips there, and that does require capital. Like obviously you need to be able to. You should never do a tour or a trip if you can't afford to take a loss on it, because there's no guarantee. I've had tours where I made a lot of money. I've had tours where I barely broke even. I've had tours where it was not worth it at all for how it panned out. And so I'm saying, but so it is ill-advised to tour if you can't afford to take a loss on the accommodations, plane ticket, etc. So think about that. You can tour with other girls. That's an option. That's a thing that a lot of girls do, other sex workers. That sometimes that helps lower the cost. You can find there's a resource called Kink B&B. I don't know if they're sex work friendly, but Airbnb is generally not a good place to do sex work because most of them don't allow people to have, you can't have people over. Like, and sometimes you can get away with it, sometimes you can't. So hotels are still kind of the standard as far as like where you want to be doing sex work. I think those are all my tips for beginners. I'm sorry if I put anybody out by saying that, you might not be cut out for this, and it's not going to be quick money. It's not going to be easy. But I don't want to sugarcoat anything. I don't want anybody to go into this industry thinking that it's going to be something that it's not. And also, I feel like the idea that sex work is easy money or quick money is a disservice to me and sex workers everywhere. But like this is a job, this is a craft. You have to do advertising, you have to screen people, you have to talk to clients, you have to deal with a lot of bullshit that no other profession will ever deal with. So keep those things in mind, and I would say only pursue this career if at the end of the day you enjoy sex or you enjoy fetishes. I'm not saying I only do fetishes that I enjoy or only have sex with people that I'm attracted to. That wouldn't, that's just not feasible. But don't do anything that makes you feel bad. I'm not saying I haven't. I think that there's a learning curve there. Sometimes you don't realize how things will make you feel until after you do them. But try not to do anything. Like, if somebody's trying to, convince you to do something that makes you go, ugh, it's not worth it. Don't do it. It's not, maybe I'm speaking from a place of privilege because I've always had a roof over my head and food in my belly. But if you can help it, don't do things you don't want to do. And don't go into this industry if the idea of having sex with strangers illies you out, or if the idea of touching strangers or spending time around strangers or being fetishized by strangers illies you out, because that will be you're not gonna be successful. If that's, you have to enjoy the work, you have to enjoy the subject of the work to make money and to be okay in this industry. So that's my advice for beginners. Stay sexy, folks.